So today I share the story that many of you have been asking for quite a long time. That is the story of a friend of mine who was able to build himself a house when he was earning a salary of 2,000 shillings per month. It's a story that I've shared many times when I especially am teaching about foundations of money management. Maybe before I give the story, allow me to give you just a little background to that particular conversation. When I speak about foundations of money management, there is something I am fond of mentioning that I call realities of money. Now, I came up with 7 realities of money to help us internalize how we can change the way we view money, because the truth about the world of money is that we handle money based on how we view money. So when I look at the way you handle money, the way you relate with money, the way you behave around money, then I can be able to tell the way you think about money, the way you view money. Right, so these 7 realities are supposed to help transform the way we view money so that then we can load a new software in ourselves so that we can begin to change the way we view money or the way we behave around money. And so amongst these 7 realities of money, there is reality of money number 4, which says that there is no small money. There is no small money. In fact, in a classroom setting or in a training setting, every time we get to this particular reality, all participants must repeat after me that there is no small money. I wish you could this particular time. Now, here is the thing. Many people, the average human being, the average human mind believes that their money is small. No wonder you will meet so many people. Probably you are one of them who will be saying that my money is small. This money is small. Haka kamshahara ketu. The way our salary is small. The way the economy has made money to be small and all those things. Sometimes it's just like people lack the smallest words to show how small their income is. But sometimes I've also asked people, so how much is big enough? And that question many times gets very many people confused. I will not forget at one point in a certain training, I asked people, I told people that those that are employed, if one day HR gives you the opportunity to select how much money you think you need to be paid for you to be okay, for you to be comfortable and to stop saying that your money is small, how much would that be? Because it is easier for people to lament and speak of how small their money is on the corridors. So once in a while I do challenge them and tell them, assume HR gives you the opportunity or a company gives you the opportunity to determine how much you need to be paid. How much would it be? So one day I asked this particular question somewhere, and there's a guy who stood and said, I think if you gave me 100,000, I'd be good to go. And so I told him, 100,000 is okay for you? Yes. So I wrote on the board 100,000. And just before I spoke anything else, the guy rose again and said, please make it 200,000. So I adjusted. I crossed the 100 and I wrote 200,000. And then the guy stood again and said, I think 500,000 will be good for me. And before long, he had already also proposed 1,000,000 bob. And that just shows you how unsure we are of what we think is big enough for us. After observing the way people behave around money and the way people think that their money is small, perhaps the smallest, I realized that those people that have gone far financially, those people that seem to do a lot financially, are people who have come to terms with the reality that there is no small money. Of course, money will be small if you compare it with another sum of money that is bigger in number than the one you have. Money will seem small if you spend your money recklessly without a plan. Money will seem small, will actually be small if you're trapped in debt. Your money will be small if you compare your money with another person's money, and especially if that other person's money is bigger in number, like I've said, than your own. But when I say there is no small money, I'm not comparing numbers. Okay? I'm not comparing numbers. But I'm trying to tell your mind that for you to be able to do more with your money, you must first convince yourself that it is possible for you to do more with what you have. Now, here is the danger of opening your mouth and declaring that your money is small. The moment you do that, you put a mental cap in your mind. You lock your mind. That mind is not going to give you ideas that can be able to do big things with money that you have already declared and regarded as being small. And that is why very many people will fold their arms and wait for big money, for them to be able to do the things they ought to be doing in life. And I'm sure you've seen these people who will work for ages, and they will seem not to be doing a lot because they are waiting for big money for them to do the things they need to do in their lives. Sadly, for many of them, they end up working up to retirement, and they don't seem to stumble upon this big money that they are waiting for. Plus, again, they don't even know how much is this big money that they are waiting for. So that is why it's important for us to remind ourselves of the fact that there is no small money. But nothing reminds us this fact better than some of the stories I do share when I train about this particular thing. And this is one of the stories that you guys have been asking for, especially after I shared something about the fact that there is no small money. So one day, I was invited to speak in an investment group. You may want to call it chamas, the way it's known in this side of the world. And this was just a small group of people who were closely knit, people who had a few things in common, and it had a simple mode of operation. These guys were contributing 1,000 shillings every month, and they were lending the money amongst themselves, some table banking sort of operation. And then at the end of the year, they would split the money and share the spoils amongst themselves equally. So I got invited to speak to them about debt management. And before I stood to start speaking, I arrived there a few minutes before time, and I got a chance to just interact with them, listen out to what they were saying, and things like those. So in the course of that particular phase, before I stood to speak, I overheard a guy say that he was traveling to his village the following morning to go and build himself a house. Right, so that just caught my attention, and it was nothing big. Then my moment came, and I spoke, and when I was done, as I was just leaving, of course, people would follow so that we can exchange contacts, so that they can ask a few personalized questions and things like those. So there's this guy who followed, and the guy stops me and tells me, Mwalimu, if you hear of a good job, please tell me. And I turn and I look at this guy, and I remember this is the guy I overheard saying that he was traveling the next day to go and construct his house. So I'm a bit, I want to know more from him. So how come you are looking for a better job, and what does a better job mean to you? And that's when the guy opened up and told me that he was currently earning a salary of 2,000 shillings per month. Not per week, not per hour, not per day, per month. I highly doubt that some of you watching this video will agree to take up a job that will pay you 2,000 shillings per month. Right? We're talking about $20 per month. Okay? And so I look at this guy and I ask him, are you sure of what you're saying? The guy says, yes, I've been earning 2,000 shillings per month. And I asked him, but I overheard you say that you're traveling to go and construct your house. So how are you able to pull a house out of a salary of 2,000 bob? And before he answers, my mind wanders. Okay, and I remember, because I've had opportunity to speak to people who are nearing retirement. I've had chance to train people who are nearing retirement, and sometimes our sessions get emotional when some of those people open up about their fears of the life ahead of them. And I've had very many sessions where people would open up, and some of them even shed tears, and some of them open up and say that they have worked for more than 30 years, but they do not have even a grass-thatched house that they are retiring to. And I'm sure some of you have seen these stories. in reality. The people who've worked for decades and they retire and they don't even have a place to call their own. They don't even have a house, a grass-thatched house to call their own. I have had enough of those in our retirement sessions, right? And so immediately this guy told me that he was going to construct a house and he's been earning a salary of 2,000 bob per month. I quickly remembered the cases, instances of guys who've shed tears in class saying and remembering and just voicing their fears that they are going into retirement, but they are afraid they don't have even a grass-thatched house to call their own. Yet they've been earning multiples of 2,000 shillings per month came to my mind. And they crowded my mind. And I started wondering, this story looked like a special story. How can someone pull a house out of a salary of 2,000 shillings per month? Look, make no mistake, this is not a story of the 1980s, where our parents would tell us that they were earning 367 shillings and we feel woe for them, we feel pity for them, when in reality 367 was a lot of money back then. This is not even a story of the 90s. This is a story of the 2000s. So more or less means the same thing. That amount means the same thing today. Okay? Again, make no mistake, the guy was not single. The guy was married. He had a wife and 2 little children. Okay? Now, again, this is not a fictitious story because I have traveled to see the house. I've followed up this particular story until I have seen the house. The house is not a permanent house. It is a semi-permanent house. It is a 4-roomed house. But that house befits the status of this guy. The guy enters his compound not feeling ashamed, not feeling weak, not feeling down like that other guy who feels that they are going into retirement and they do not even have a grass-thatched house to call their own. The guy enters his homestead with a lot of confidence, with a lot of power, because he's been able to achieve what he needed to achieve. So I followed this story and I wanted to learn a few things from this story. So I sat with this guy and I made him my friend, right? And I wanted to tap into his story and to really see how practical it was for him to be able to achieve this that he achieved. And this is how he began his story. He told me that when he got this job, he told himself that if there's anything he was going to achieve in life at that particular time, it was going to come out of this salary, out of this job. Now that is a very powerful statement there. It is an empowering statement that if I'm going to achieve anything, if I'm going to fulfill anything, if I'm going to do anything in my life now, it will come from the money that I currently are earning, that I'm currently earning. For very many people, if you got a job of 2,000 bob, the first thing that will come to your mind is the thought that this money is very small. And that is what many people have done. And so they will sit and wait for the day they'll have a bigger job that will pay them big money, or the day they'll stumble upon some money miraculously. But this guy told himself a very powerful statement, and that opened up his mind that it is possible for him to achieve his goals through this money, because that is how he has tuned his mind to believe. And so we got into the numbers. And the guy tells me that every month when he would get the salary, the 2,000 shillings, the guy was a gardener. He was employed as a gardener in someone's compound in Langata. And although he was housed in the compound of the boss, the fact still remains that to very many people, 2,000 shillings, even if you are housed by the boss, is not money that can bring forth a house. Right? At least everywhere I've shared this story, that is the testimony that many people have given me, that indeed they feel that this particular story has opened their mind to the fact that it is possible for you to do a lot of things with what you currently have. All right. So the guy tells me that immediately he would receive the salary, what he would do is that he would split the money into two. So there's 1,000 on this end and another 1,000 on this end. The 1,000 on this end is for survival for both him and the wife and 2 children who are living in a country. Okay? So he would split the money. Sometimes he would send 500 in the village and use 500. Sometimes 700 in the village and use 300, depending on where there was a lot of weight in that particular month. All right? And he told me that once he receives that money and he has shared, he has sent the money to his wife, the one that needs to be sent to his wife, and he has remained with his own, he would do shopping only for essentials. Right? And that time essentials meant probably a couple of packets of unga, maybe retain a few shillings for buying sukuma wiki here and there, and things like those. At that particular time, he told me sugar was not a necessity for him. He would buy a little sugar every end month, and where it would end, where it would get finished, that was the end of it. He would not crave for more sugar. He was okay. He was comfortable in his skin because he knew what he was fighting for, what he was trying to pursue to achieve. What I'm trying to say here is this: you are the only one who understands your circumstances. The rest of us that you work so hard to impress, that you work so hard to make statements to, we do not care. We don't even have feelings for what you're going through or for what you're trying to do. So you have to internalize your own struggles, customize your lifestyle so that then you can still work things out within the confines of your realities. And that is what that guy did there. Right, so that is how he behaved on his side. Now, when I traveled to see the house, I also got the chance to capture the side of the wife. Now, the wife told me that when this guy got this money, they sat together, and at that particular time, their biggest pain was lack of a house they would call their own. I think at that particular time, they were housed in a brother's house, which was a grass-thatched house, actually. All right, the brother was away in town, and there used to be a lot of confusion, especially when both of them have traveled home. All right, so they didn't want that shame to continue facing them. And so when this guy got this job, together with his wife, they sat down and agreed that our biggest problem is a house. If we are able to hack a house out of this money, then we will have achieved. And so they agreed to work together. Now, this is where I use this example, especially when I'm running what I call financial intimacy in marriage program for couples, right? To show you the importance of then working together and how that can make the journey easier. Because if the two of them were not moving together, if they were not in sync in the way they think about this money that they have, probably it would not have been easier for the house to come out of 2,000 bob. So the wife told me that every month, once this guy sends the portion he would have sent, she also realizes that this money is a do or die kind of money. So she has to be very careful how she will spend the money. She has to be very careful on the things she will be doing with the money. So also from her end, she would buy the essentials. They didn't have a big chunk of land surrounding their house. They just had a small piece of land where they would do subsistence farming, where they would plant a few vegetables here and there, a few maize stalks here and there, and upon the harvesting season, if they are lucky enough to harvest some maize, they would harvest probably several tins that would push them for a number of days. So depending on what season they were in, she would only buy the essentials. And she also mentioned that at that particular time, sugar was not a big bother. I don't know why the two of them were mentioning sugar, but I say sugar was not a big bother for them. So she would buy some little sugar, but when the sugar would get finished, that would be it. I remember they were rearing their own cow, which was giving them some milk, the traditional cow that would give them a cup of milk or two every other morning, so they were not buying milk. They had planted their own vegetables, so they were not buying vegetables. They had done a lot on that particular small piece of land. Okay, so that was the side of the story from the wife. Now, so we came to the other 1,000 bob, because the house was going to come out of 1,000 shillings. Now, the guy tells me that initially, he would be sending the 1,000 to his wife with the instructions of what she needed to buy towards the construction of the house. So sometimes the guy sends the 1,000 and gives instructions for her to buy probably one iron sheet and probably a kilo of nails and things like those. Then the guy discovered that every other month, they would buy one item when he had given instructions for them to buy two. So they would buy one, then he would be given a story for the remaining portion of the money. Probably a child started coughing or felt unwell, and so they used part of the money to take the child to hospital or things like those. So the guy realized that if he continues with that mechanism of sending money to the village for them to buy the building materials, then he would either have to wait for far too long, or a house will never come out of this money at all. And that is how the guy joined the investment group where I found him. Now, the guy joined this group to use the group as a savings tool and as an investment tool. Here is where I caution you again. There are very many of you who are members of chamas, but you have no clue why you joined those chamas. I will tell you for free, chamas are very beautiful vehicles that can bring prosperity to you. But I also tell you for free that chamas have also been the source of pains, the source of trouble for very many people. In my debt clinic, I've sat down with people who are members of chamas, and we have gone to the level of ascertaining that actually their trouble is coming from chamas, because they joined the chamas without necessarily deciding what exactly was pushing them towards joining a chama. There are people who join chamas when they are looking for social comfort, when they are looking for social warmth, when they just want somewhere they can belong, somewhere they can feel warm socially. But they make a mistake of joining a chama that is demanding them to be giving money, probably a chama that is lending them money, and so they are borrowing money when they do not even need to borrow. Right? I will not forget very many cases where I've sat with people and they belong to very many chamas. Okay, forgive me, because this story has very many lessons in it. All right, I've sat with someone who was a member of over 10 chamas, and when we are going through the numbers, I begin to wonder, and I begin to ask this person, where do you get the money to contribute every month to all these groups? So let's break down each of them. How much do you contribute monthly to group A, group B, group, until we get to group J? And I remember one case where this person was required to contribute 50,000 shillings to all those chamas every month. Yet this person's income was a paltry 25,000. I'm calling it a paltry in comparison to what the chamas were requiring from them. And so it was open. Where do you get the difference every month? Because I was also asking, are you in arrears in this particular group? Are you in arrears in this other group? Are you in arrears in this other group? Then we started evaluating. So what is the benefit of group A? What is the benefit of group B? What is the benefit of group C? And you could clearly see that indeed their joining of these groups was the genesis of their trouble. I will leave that one there. You think about it if you're a member of those groups. But now I want you to see the positive side. Now this guy joined this group so that the group can help him to save, so that the group can help him to invest and make some little more money from the money he had. So every month he would be contributing 1,000 shillings to this group from January. And the guy did it very meticulously, very religiously, in a very disciplined manner. I also learned from the treasurer of that group that this guy was the first person to send in his contribution. Now the hilarious part is this. In this particular group, there were members who were earning many multiples of 2,000 shillings per month. All right? But I also learned that there were many members who were in arrears of their monthly contribution of 1,000 shillings every month. There were many members who actually knew and believed that my friend here was earning more than them just because he used to send his money as the first one, and he has done so religiously. What I'm trying to say here is, it is possible for you to organize your finances, for you to organize your life, and people out there will be thinking and actually believing that you earn more than them, because people believe that you can only be able to do well financially if you earn more. All right, so if you organize yourself, people can actually think that you earn more than them. But the truth is that you have just understood your circumstances and you are behaving well around them. Here's the last hilarious thing. In that particular group, there are very many people who started coming to him and telling him that my son, my daughter has cleared high school. Where you work, if you hear of some opportunity, please help us. Take them and put them somewhere. Here is a guy who is telling me to tell him if I come across a better paying job. But here are people who are earning multiples of what he earns, but they believe he's in a better paying job. They believe he earns more than them. They believe that this guy can actually be able to help employ their sons and daughters. All right. So this is what used to happen. In the first year, the guy would contribute from January to December, 1,000 bob every month. Then the group would be lending amongst themselves. And then, at the end of the year, they would break the kitty and share the money. The guy tells me, averagely, he would go home, instead of 12,000, he would be going home with about 16,000, 14,000, 16,000 to 18,000, depending on how their finances performed in that particular year. Of course, 14,000 is not 12, 16,000 is not 12, 18,000 is not 12. Now, every time they've broken the kitty at the end of the year, the guy would travel to the village and now buy the materials he needed at once. Then he would come back to the city to start working again and to start contributing to the group again from the new year. And the guy would do that. So he did that again for the second year. And then he traveled again and bought whatever was remaining. And the guy came back and started again the third year when I was meeting him. So when I met him the end of the third year, he had now gathered money that would cater for labor and the small items that would be needed to conclude the house. Yes, and as we speak, the house is still there, is standing. It's a house I have seen and touched and entered. So I don't want to ask whether you have a house or not. That is up to you. I also don't want to ask you how many multiples of 2,000 shillings you've been earning and for how long. Again, that is up to you. But I want to ask you, how many dreams have you shelved because you thought that your money was small? How many projects have you put in the shelf? How many projects have you hived somewhere? How many projects in your mind have you killed because your money was small and you're waiting for big money? How many things have you been waiting that you will do them only when you will receive a lot of money? Think about it and find answers to these questions. But the only thing I'm trying to remind you is that there is no small money. And you know what? You can do better. Thank you and God bless you.